I'd love to hear some introductions from all of you. So we'll have kind of each cluster, like partnership or group of three, introduce the folks that they're assigned to introduce, and we'll go from there. So why don't we start up here in the front?
So I talked to Jackie, and she's from Oklahoma, and she's taking this class as a fill-in class. And she went to Idaho over the summer, and people might know that she does cross-country and track.
Very impressive. And then we'll just have in the partnership the other person for those things.
And so, that's Olivia. She's from Pineville, Oregon. She took this class for psychology. She competed at National High School for rodeo, and something people might not know about her, she has type 1 diabetes.
Gotcha. So do we have a partnership or group of three here?
Yes, we have a partnership here.
Okay, got it.
So this is Katie. She's from Grand Oregon. She's born and raised here. And then she does track and field. She does the 100 and 200, hopefully the relay. And then she's a freshman, and her favorite number is 7.
Lucky 7.
Yep. This is Amini. She's from Hermiston. She did soccer and track in high school. She's a sophomore this year, and she's also an RA for the dorms, and her favorite numbers are 15 and 30.
I like the lucky number theme going on. Seems like we've already got a fair number of folks doing like track, outdoor running and events, all that type of stuff, which is great. Do we have a partnership over here?
Yeah. So this is Rolando. He came from Milton Free Water, so he's a freshman this year, and he plays soccer.
Great.
This is Hayden. She's a freshman. She's from LeGrand. She played volleyball and softball.
Let's do the second row here. So do we have a partnership here? Awesome.
This is Jill. She was born in California but grew up in LeGrand. She's a psych major, so her advisor recommended this class for her, and she plays electric bass in the clarinet.
Very cool.
This is Alexis. She says she goes by Lexi sometimes. She's from Helix. She's taking this class because she needed a lower credit class, and this is just 30. Over the summer, she was very boring and just was taking classes, and she played the snare drum in high school.
Very cool. Got a musical instrument theme. Nice. Next over here.
So this is my partner, Kenna. She lives in Pineville, which is 4 hours away. She didn't do anything fun this summer, and he doesn't know that she's a thrower on the fantasy.
Very cool.
So this is Maddie, and he goes by Maddie Mac, in case there's any other Maddies in the class. She's from Bruno, Idaho, and that's a little over 4 hours away. Over the summer, she sold fireworks at a fireworks stand, with some pretty good stories about that. Sold some to a naked lady, she said. And she's also on the track team. She's a runner, she's a track star.
Very cool.
This is my partner, Izzy. She's from Hermiston and lived there since she was 4. She's not sure when she's in this class. Her advisor suggested it. Her summer wasn't too busy. She worked at Safeway and then came through summer and working. She's pretty much an open book, but she loves baking, and she's going to EOU because she was in the OTP program, and EOU is the best place.
Very cool. I noticed this in the morning class I taught too. Some folks just were told to come to this class, like from an advisor or somebody else, and so they're like, "Oh, go take this class." So I hope I live up to that recommendation, but I hope you find something to enjoy or get out of this class either way.
My partner was Hayden. She is from Baker City, and she's lived here for 2 years now. She wasn't totally sure why she's in this class, but she thinks it's for her business. She worked at Sorbonne's over the summer and then went to a Young Life camp, and she loves music.
Okay. So let's do the third row here. We have a group-ish. I know a couple people might have moved back after working with that. So why don't we start here? Who did you introduce?
Okay, so I was introduced to Katie over here, and so she lived in Alaska, finished high school in Hermiston. And she's a musician, so she's a music minor and plays guitar and piano. Loved drumline in high school. That's all I remember.
I mean, that's pretty impressive from memory.
After I speak to Steve, it's Steve, right? Okay. I'm bad with names sometimes. Steve is 37. He basically could be my uncle. He said he's from LeGrand, but he kind of said he's lived everywhere. He said he's taking this class because he needs more gen ed credit.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. So it looks like we have a partnership here, Mr. Wright.
Okay, this is Brenna, my partner. She's from the Grand, so she's here. Well, she's undecided right now, but that's okay. You can hopefully get her here this summer. This summer she went paddleboarding. Her favorite color is green. We talked about graduation because we're both freshmen. I said, "How was your graduation?" She said that she's lucky to have a normal graduation. And she played tennis and volleyball when she was in high school, and she's the same age as me. And
This is my partner Natalie with a Y. She's from Umatilla. Fun thing she did this summer was go to Silverwood. She's a first generation going to college, which is awesome. And she lives on campus. She's 18 like me, and she played soccer and basketball in high school.
Very cool. I know that it sounds like there's a fair number of students here who are here for the first time. That's awesome. I hope that you're going to have an awesome first year college experience. I know there's a lot of adjusting, a lot of ways that it's different from high school and so on. And so, this is a really kind of introductory course and way to help people adjust to the college experience. We're glad to have you. Is there anybody else from the third row? Yeah.
So I figured I met Kaysen.
Yeah.
They're both from Washington. Kaysen's a farmer, he farms wheat over summer. So I really didn't do anything. And we also took this class because we just needed to, I guess. Yeah.
Sure. This is Trey. He's from Dufur, Oregon, from the football team, and just do this class because he's filming everybody.
Yeah.
All right, well, this is Kaysen. He's from Washington, he's a farmer, and his town only has 400 people.
That's impressive, yeah. It's been really interesting to just kind of explore around Eastern Oregon, see all of the smaller towns and areas around and stuff. I grew up kind of on the western side of the state, so it's definitely been transition, but there's so much great stuff here. Looks like we might have a last partnership here in the back.
This is Jared, from Boise, Idaho. Like to run track, do rock climbing, majoring in launch, and took the class to do credit.
Gotcha.
This is Sawyer from Austin, Texas. He is a freshman here and just drove up the long drive a little bit ago. He's majoring in psychology. And I took this class just as a fill-in, and so I highly recommend it for him. Some people might not know is he enjoys art. He enjoys the draw.
Very cool. How long is it out from Austin?
It was about like 30 hours.
Yikes. Yikes. That's, how many days did you end up doing it?
It was about like 3 days, yeah.
That's, wow, it's like 10 hours a day. Wow. So that's a lot of travel, yeah. Is there anybody that we missed for introductions? Anybody we didn't get to? So how many folks, I know that a fair number have introduced. Hi there, welcome. We just did some quick introductions. So if you'd be willing to just share us your name and maybe a couple things about yourself when you can catch a breath.
Yeah, so my name is JP Fredrickson. I am from Burns, Oregon, and I
let's see.
Kind of on the spot, so no worries.
Yeah. I like to play video games in my free time, and I like to run.
Very cool. A lot of folks that enjoy running or involved in track. Awesome. So how many here are student athletes? Yes, so quite a few of you. That's awesome. I know that for a lot of you, you might be doing things like travel and might be missing some classes here and there. That's totally okay. And what I want to kind of go over a little bit today is if you need to miss a course, for instance, you're away at an event or a game or anything like that, or you're under quarantine or feeling sick, or something like has just come up and you're not able to make the class. Basically, after the course is done, I will upload a recording. I'm not going to have like a Zoom because if you're at a sporting event or you're feeling really sick during class, you'll probably miss it. I'd rather have you watch the recording at a time that works best for you and where you're most comfortable. And then after that, you'll notice on the front page of Canvas, which we'll get to in a minute, there'll be a makeup activity that you'll do to cover that. So, if you're feeling sick, if you're under quarantine, don't come to class, you'll be able to do that alternate makeup there too. So, welcome. It was really great to learn and get to know a little bit more about you. I'm not amazing with names, but I will try to get those names down within the next 2 or 3 weeks. So bear with me as I say, hey, you, or you there in whatever outfit, right? So I will do my best to get that going. So wanted to tell you just a couple things about me so that you can get to know this random person. So my name is Ben. I'm an assistant professor of communication. This is actually my first year here at Eastern Oregon University, and this is my first morning teaching at EOU, so I'm really excited to be here. So as I mentioned, I grew up kind of on the western side of Portland. So I grew up in the Lake Oswego, West Lynn area, about half hour south of Portland. For the longest time, I thought I was going to be an English major and become an English teacher. But somewhere along the way in high school and college, I fell in love with competitive speech and debate. I really liked the idea of learning how to advocate for issues that you really care about and are really passionate about, and that got me really excited. So I kind of changed course to communication. I completed a master's program in Central California in Stockton, and then I moved to Salt Lake City, Utah to complete a PhD in communication at the University of Utah. So kind of formed a little bit of a triangle, but I always wanted to go back to my home state of Oregon. When I visited LeGrand, I really fell in love with Walla Lake and all of the really awesome outdoor activities and things here. So I'm really excited to finally be here in LeGrand. So different communication faculty, right, have kind of different specialties and areas of expertise. So if you're a comm major, you're looking at something like your capstone, or you're just kind of curious about communication and what types of courses are offered. So my area is very much about kind of rhetoric, right? How do we use communication to persuade, to influence, to impact one another? So I'm really concerned and interested with how people are using things like social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and so on, to advocate and communicate about a variety of issues. And I especially focus on things such as disability and some of the ways that folks with disabilities can use things like online spaces to communicate and engage with each other in unique ways. So it's a little bit about what I do. I also am the proud parent of my 2-year-old Labrador Retriever. She is Sylvie, the Silver Lab. She's so excited to have so much open space to run around and be silly. I also do independent game design. It's a prototype, there's no graphics yet, but I've been working on a game ever since the pandemic. So I've been a huge fan of video games growing up, and just a fun thing I do on the side. So in any case, I'm really excited to be here and be working with you all. So the reason that I had us kind of do this activity is not just because it's a nice way for us to get to know each other a little bit better, but also, and this is probably pretty obvious, we just did interpersonal communication, right? So interpersonal communication is one of the many different subfields or areas within communication as a whole, right? So there's a lot of things like mass media, health communication, conflict management, all sorts of things, but interpersonal communication is kind of one of the biggest areas of communication. So we'll unpack what interpersonal communication is a little bit more, but interpersonal communication is mostly a dyad, right? Meaning that it's between two people. So as I was wandering around and hearing you all talk to each other and share about your partner, there were interesting things that I noticed. For one, unfortunately with needing to wear face masks, some of the parts of our nonverbal communication are less clear, right? A lot of our expressions and the way that we play expressions off each other. Somebody's surprised, you assure them. Somebody's angry, you notice that, and that's harder when you don't really see a face, right? I was also really interested in some of the ways that you all were taking notes and sharing about another person, right? Some folks were like really taking notes, others did a great job from memory. There were certain details and points that you had to check in on, and so there's a lot that goes into the process of listening to each other, and some of the challenges of listening, right? And a lot of folks have found that the majority of communication that we do face-to-face is nonverbal, right? It's our gestures, our facial expressions, our tone. There's so much more than just the words. It's the classic saying, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And so those elements all go in and shape interpersonal communication, both those verbal components, the word choice, but also the nonverbal ways that we express ourselves to each other. And it's been incredibly interesting to see how that's changed over the past year and a half with COVID-19. Now, raise your hand if you think that something like texting, talking on the phone, or using Zoom counts as interpersonal communication. Yes or no? And you don't need to know the right answer to this question. Okay. So it does. So interpersonal communication is more than just a face-to-face interaction, although that's a really big part of it. The way that we use things like media, including social media, is really interesting. It's kind of like how you're texting somebody, and there's not just the exchange, but there's also little bubbles that show up when somebody's typing, then the other person stops typing and all of that. There's a lot of research that's looked into things as simple as that, right? What makes interpersonal communication different than something like a television show or movie is that you are directly talking to another person in some way, whether it's written, spoken, so on. So it's not mass media, it's not a TV show, it's not a social media post that goes out to everybody. It is focused to the other person. It's trying to understand the ins and outs of what that looks like. Yeah?
So if you're online chatting with somebody and you think it's somebody that turns out to be a bot, but you believe that it's somebody, is it still interpersonal communication on your end?
So on your end you think it is, but it would probably fit under so it sort of fits under intrapersonal communication, which is talking to yourself. It can also fit under what we'll call parasocial communication, where you are communicating or forming a relationship with an entity that does not reciprocate. We do parasocial all the time. If you follow celebrities on social media, right, and you like all their posts and you feel like you've got a connection with that person, like there's like an influencer that you really enjoy, that fits under that parasocial definition too. That's a good question. It's a challenging and murky space. So, what I want to do next is just go over a few kind of nuts and bolts of the course, as far as course policies, to give you a sense of what to expect. So, the first thing that I want to go over is the course syllabus. Schedule. Let's look at the schedule too, though. So I actually have this posted on the front page of Canvas, kind of as that grid setup. You'll notice that each week there is the topic that we're covering, and then the things that are due. The version that's on Canvas also has links to the readings and the other things that you'll need to access for the course. So that's the schedule. So the syllabus is also posted on the front page of Canvas. I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but I do want to go over a few highlights and things that I think are good to know. So we meet Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 to 1:50. And if at any point you've got any questions or need clarification, let me know. So my office is in Ackerman on the second floor. Basically, I do my student hours, office hours, in kind of a combined way. So between 10 a.m. to noon on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'll always be there and available to meet with you if you want to talk about the course, if you want to talk about your grade, if you have an idea for a project, if you just want to chat, I'll be there. In addition to being in that office face-to-face, I will also have a Zoom room that's linked on Canvas that's open too. So during that same period of time, if you would rather meet with me, maybe you have to go home or you're not on campus during that time, you can just access the Zoom room. In fact, had somebody earlier who did just that. It's a great way for you to get in touch with me if you can't meet face-to-face. Also, I know being a college student is expensive. I've been there, and paying for textbooks is not very fun. So I tried to work over the summer to find a free textbook. Doesn't cost any money, but still has a really good deep dive into communication. And I found one. It is Wrench, Interpersonal Communication book that's posted on Canvas. So it is a huge PDF. It's a big download. And so what I've also done is created little chunks of it. So smaller PDFs that cover the readings that I'm asking you to read for that particular day. That way you can more easily access them. But if you need a paper copy and want some help getting access to the ebook, let me know. So you can just access it through Canvas. Don't buy a book. You don't need to buy a book for this class. So, talk about a couple things like email. I try to respond to emails as fast as I can. Here. Okay. So, there we go. A little bit about COVID-19. Again, I hate to be a stickler about it, but State of Oregon and EOU requires face masks during class. Generally not a problem. So if you need an accommodation, get in touch with the Disability Services Office if you haven't already. This just lets us know if we're going over some, major challenging material in the course, but we're just learning, focusing on being respectful toward one another. I ask that you can regularly check your email if you're able, since I use Canvas. I've kind of bombarded you with a couple announcements over this past week, but I use Canvas if there's updates, like courses need to be canceled or things change. If you're dropping the course, policies about doing that are here too. So you can use something like laptop, tablet, and so on. Just use it to focus on things like note-taking and so on. If it becomes a distraction, like checking social media, please don't do that. It's a distraction to yourself and other students. So please try to come to class on time and leave on time. Again, if things come up, that's okay. But, you don't have a whole lot of time each class, so I like making the most of it. So I know that this is a challenging time, and I take a couple different approaches. I take the victor approach and the firefighter approach, right? The victor approach is that, if you're falling behind in the course, maybe a lot of things have happened, you've become swamped with deadlines, you've got like 3 midterms due the next week, right? Come to me as a victor, which means come to me with a plan or a way that you're going to tackle that issue. For instance, look, I have a ton of exams coming up, I missed a deadline on this paper, is it okay if I turn this paper in on October 25th, right? I'm willing to work with you as long as you communicate with me about what you need if you're falling behind. Take the firefighter approach. So if you got a fire in your home, call 911, get a fire extinguisher, you put it out, right? You don't wait for the fire to burn the house down, then you get the smoldering ash and you say, there was a fire here, help, right? The same way for this class, if you're falling behind, if you need help, please contact me as soon as we can so I can help you to put the fire out. I really want to help folks succeed in this course. I'm not a person that delights in giving people Fs. I don't like that at all. I want folks to do well, and I want to be there to help you to do that. So I've gone over a little bit about the absence policy, but you'll complete a makeup assignment if you can't make the course. Grades and so on are pretty standard. We'll be talking a little bit more about the assignments later in the week, but there's a few different things that we'll be completing. So I don't know about you, but I got pretty bad test anxiety as a student. I did not enjoy going up to campus and taking the exam. It always felt like exam day was the one day when like a car broke down or the bus didn't work or whatever. So The midterm is open note, open book, and you can take it wherever you want within a 72-hour window. So you don't need to come to class, although during the class time, the room will be empty if you need to use it. Take it where you feel the most comfortable. You'll have 2 hours to take it once the window opens. It's a combination of multiple choice, short essay. Most people finish it in about an hour and a half. So in addition to that, we have an interpersonal analysis essay. And using the things we talked about early on in the course, we'll be asking you to look at a relationship between two characters on a TV show or movie, right? So for instance, if you're a big fan of the TV show Friends and you want to look at the relationship between Ross and Rachel, because there's a lot of interpersonal communication to unpack there, right? Or Jim and Pam from The Office, you can do that. And so I'm asking you to apply those concepts from the course into examining that relationship. We'll also have discussion leading, so I'm going to divide folks later on in the quarter into smaller groups. I know some folks do not enjoy presenting, and that's okay. It's not about being a good public speaker. It's about using about 15 minutes or so to introduce us to the unit or topic that we'll be talking about for the course. And it'll be just a chance for us to kind of get an entry into that material. So you don't need to cover the whole chapter. You can just cover some of the key points, ideas, and so on. So at the end of the quarter is my favorite assignment. I'm going to ask you to, with their consent, record a meaningful conversation with somebody like a friend, family member, and so on. Then I'm going to ask you to do the nails on a chalkboard thing of hearing your own voice and transcribing your own recording. And then looking at that experience, looking at the text. And I know it's uncomfortable. I did the exact same assignment as a student, but there's so much that you pick up on. So we'll use content from the end of the course to help you to analyze and make sense of the communication that you've done with this person and how elements from this course are reflected into that relationship. Also attendance and participation, come to class, be ready to participate and engage. I had a question in my earlier course about what you should expect in terms of format, lecture, group, whatever. I like using a combo. So I think that if 3 times a week you heard me just lecturing at you for 50 minutes, I'd probably be breaking the law because the Constitution prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. So I'll be using a combination of some types of lecture elements when there's things that I think are really important to convey. But I also want to do things like group activities, individual prompts, and other things that kind of break it up. And using things like discussion leading too will help with that. There's an extra credit opportunity that I'll offer toward the end of the course. Complete that, and you'll get 2% or 20 points added onto your final grade. You'll notice that all the assignments in the course add up to 1,000 points, so it's really easy to see where you're at. If you end the course with 930 points, right, that's 93%. So, and this is the fun part, I'm going to try to pull up Canvas for you. So you should have kind of a similar student portal, and you should see an option here for Canvas. Go to Courses, Interpersonal Communication, this is section 2. So I'm going to switch you over to Student View, which is what it will look like for you. So you'll see here at the very top is the syllabus, so you can refer back to that at any point. The textbook for the course, again, that's the full big PDF. Course schedule, we just went over to. Click on this to get to my office Zoom room. And then click on this if you missed a class and you need to complete the makeup assignment. Under here, again, is the grid with the full schedule for the quarter. You'll notice here on the right that you have the links to all the material here. So for instance, this wrench link is the section of the textbook that I'm asking you to read the back class. So that gets into an overview, then interpersonal communication, and all of that fun stuff. So you'll notice here on the schedule that for Wednesday's course, so in a couple days, I'm not going to give you any sort of big reading, but I am going to ask you to just kind of look over this small blog post. And this blog post goes over interpersonal communication and its relationship to COVID-19. especially looks at things like our friendships and how our friendships have been very changed and different. We formed new friendships online. Some of our friendships have broken off, and so on. So it's just kind of a way for us to start thinking about this. We'll use Wednesday's course as a way of kind of talking about what communication is, how interpersonal communication fits within that. And then on Friday, you'll do that first reading from the textbook. Again, rather than have you read the full chapter, I've tried to divide things up into chunks to make it as reasonable as possible. So I try to cap things at like 20 to 30 pages at most, and I give some breaks here and there too, so that you're not reading a ton for every class. You'll notice here too that the intro survey is right here. That's just a little form where I'm asking you to just share a little bit about yourself, how you feel about things such as writing, your confidence in that. One thing is if you're a comm major or you're interested in communication, I'm actually going to be teaching a new course to EOU in the spring, but I'm not sure what that is yet, and I'd like your help. So if you have any ideas for a course, maybe you look on the catalog or schedule and you're like, I really wish this was offered at EOU, let me know. So those are the main things that I wanted to go over for today. So for Wednesday, again, I'm going to ask you to read through that short blog post, and I'd like you to come to class having read that and wondering, how has our communication, particularly our one-on-one interpersonal communication, changed over the last year and a half? Why has it changed? And we'll start to get into a greater discussion on those issues. So again, as an effort to avoid cruel and unusual punishment, I don't think that the first day of any class should go up to the time limit, especially since a lot of folks are looking at courses, adding, dropping courses, and so on. So this kind of covers the main things that I want to go over. Before I let you all go, do you have any questions on anything that we've gone over in the course? Any general questions, anything else? Going to take the mask acting as a no. If any questions do come up later, feel free to send me an email. I'll also be in my office tomorrow, or Wednesday from 10 to noon. Otherwise, it was really great to meet you all. I hope that you all have an awesome rest of your day, and welcome back to EOU.
Thank you. Thank you.